Arthur Pendragon. He's down at, he's usually down in Stonehenge. This is in Salisbury.
Oh, okay.
He stood in the general election.
Oh, so he's an MP?
No, he stood for Parliament. He didn't win.
Oh.
He got 489 votes or something.
Oh, dear. What was he, a reform or something like that?
No, he was independent.
Oh,
He was
okay.
King Arthur, wasn't he? I think he goes under the name of Arthur Pendragon.
Oh, really?
I think he's on the... I always write Arthur Pendragon on his envelope and I send him his newsletter. So he might be considered by the post office as Mr. Pendragon.
So why do you think that modern academia won't accept the history of King Arthur in this country? Why won't they accept it? Why do they say it's all myth and legend?
Modern academia. First of all, they're all interested in their salaries, their pensions, their reputations.
Yep.
They're scared to consider anything which is not conforming. So their attitude is, oh, but if it doesn't agree with what the convention is, our dogma, therefore it simply can't exist, it cannot be true. They're not interested in seeking truth, in other words.
No, yes.
Um,
And truth is the most important thing, isn't it?
You also have the fact, and I'm observing facts, that the real story of Arthur and his death, Camlan, the last battle, is not a pleasant one for some people, because lots of people did things they shouldn't have done.
Right.
For instance, Arthur was duped into representing the Roman Catholic Church, old Istid,
Yes.
to fight against the goddess, against his own people, his own family.
Okay.
Of course, Istid was his cousin as well. But he was fighting against his kith and kin at Camlan, and he was fighting with Saxon mercenaries.
Oh, really?
Now, this is not pleasant news,
No.
because we have an idea of Arthur as being this hero,
Yeah.
but history is rather different.
What about Wilson and Blackett? Because they said that there are two King Arthurs, didn't they?
There have been many King Arthurs. Arth Val, the Great Bear, the ancient British word. Welsh word is Arth.
Yep.
For bat means bear.
Right.
And this goes back for many thousand years. There's a bear god, you could say. And there's an Arthur stone a few miles from where we're walking now. And that goes back thousands of years ago. It was not to do with the King Arthur who fought the Saxons in the 6th century.
Yeah.
So you can have as many Arthurs as you like. There was a Scottish Arthur in the 7th century.
Yes. Yep.
There was a 1st century Arthur, same family as the Arthur who fought the Saxons, being of the Cymmer tribe, the old kingdom of Gwynedd, which in the 1st century, in Arthur's day, included North Somerset. Glastonbury used to be part of the kingdom of Gwynedd.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Bristol, the Bristol Channel was not a border.
Yeah.
And in the 1st century, one of the local lords of Glastonbury, the ruler, with the right to grant land to people, was a certain Arviragus, bear again.
Yes. Yeah.
Ancestor of the King Arthur who fought in the 6th century. This 1st century Arviragus was related to Caradog, Caractacus as the Romans called him. He may even been his brother. You dispute that, but he was related to him.
Yeah.
And he had the right to grant the 12 hides of Glastonbury to Joseph of Arimathea,
Yes.
who was in charge of the metal trade between the Mediterranean and Britain, the Isles in the west, the metal Isles in the west. And isn't it rather obvious that Joseph was the father of Jesus, and that Joseph of Arimathea was that said father, being his son, Jesus.
Not the uncle then, no,
Truth is
because...
so simple. because they don't like to admit that Jesus had a father, an earthly father, so they call him uncle, euphemistically.
Oh, I
But
see.
they don't like to admit that Jesus had brothers, including James and Just, because they woven their own tissue of lies, and so therefore they cannot accept truth.
Well, what about, I mean, in the New Testament, in the Gospels, Jesus is referred to as a king on 28 occasions. Was he really born into modest circumstances, or was he a royal figure, do you think?
Well, we're going back 2,000 years, so how do we know? How do I know any of this?
Fair enough.
We've only got what we've been fed.
Yeah.
But how can you trust any written book? Because it depends on those scribes
Yep.
who can also, well, they can be different versions, and there will be much censorship.
Yeah.
So Druids, for instance, do not have a written book, a holy book. That's why you're never allowed to have a Druid on Thought for the Day. The BBC won't allow a Druid. Every single religion in the world seems to get on Thought for the Day, except for our own native British spiritual path, even at the summer solstice or some special Druid occasion.
Yeah.
And I've been told, because I did chair the Council of British Student Orders once, September 2001, we've been trying to have a Thought for the Day. Well, why not? Actually, we do on Radio Cornwall, and in Norfolk, been doing it for years.
Oh, really?
BBC Radio Cornwall, doing it very well.
Yeah.
And the answer we've got back is that we will never be allowed, Druids will never be allowed to do a Thought for the Day. They're scared of us because the Muslims, the Jews and the Christians gang up together against us, people of the book, and say we're not a proper religion. Well, who goes around defining whatever religion or spiritual path is?
Exactly.
Their definition is you must have a holy book and a dogma.
Oh, okay.
So, see, I'm very wary. Druids are very wary of holy books for a reason. We'd rather go by the living word, the spirit, rather than a dead letter which people could fight and die for, which could be a whole lot of nonsense and lies, but you must believe in that because it's been written by so-and-so. I've written 50 books. I cringe at every single one of them when I look at them because I know that where the mistakes are in each book. Do not worship ink and paper.
Right. Okay. So, is there any truth in the story that the Druids were basically all their knowledge was destroyed by the Romans?
Oh yes, very much so.
Right.
Well, I reckon the Romans destroyed Stonehenge. The Romans, in particular, absolutely annihilated Rhydychen, which was Rhydychen is the ancient British name for Oxford. Ford, Nucken, Oxon.
Yeah.
And Oxford I was born and bred in Oxford. I was actually born at home on the site of Roger Bacon's grave.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
And
There's
you
a
have
plaque outside my door. I was born prematurely.
And you have a degree, don't you? History degree from Oxford as well,
Yes.
don't you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1973.
Yeah. I saw you.
A long time ago now.
I saw you talking at Truth Juice about
2013.
10, 11 years ago, and you did about 2.5 hours on stage, and your memory of our history was just breathtaking.
Well, that should be normal.
Fair point.
I understand it's not normal, but it's a Druidic thing.
Well, when I was at school doing history, we studied the Russian Revolution and the Vietnam War.
And did you learn anything about Britain before Julius Caesar?
Absolutely zero. Nothing.
No. Well, I was born and bred in Oxford. Well, I was told Oxford, and that's a university, did not exist until the Middle Ages, when Burton College in the early, about 1100, and they did acknowledge that there was a legend of King Alfred the Great founding Oxford University, but that was only a legend, don't believe in it. A legend, don't believe in it, and no proof. That was the earliest they go back to would be the days of Alfred the Great. The so-called Saxon, but Alfred the Great was not Saxon, he was British because he was of the West Saxons who were not West Saxons, they were Gewissae, because they were descended from Cerdic,
I didn't. Yes,
Cerdic was an
Cerdic.
ancient Briton.
Was he?
Who lost his patrimony and had to flee across to the mouth of the River Loire
Wow.
in Gaul and near Brittany, and he collected mercenary soldiers, and Jutes in particular, and he came back with soldiers. A lot of the Jutes landed, say, to the other way, in Hampshire, that area, and he used them to regain what we now call Wessex, the Gewissae, the Noahs, the long-haired Gnostics.
Yes.
But Cerdic, from whom the present Queen is descended, the King is descended. I'm still with you, Your Majesty. But Cerdic is an ancient British name like Caradog.
It is. No, I remember reading about this
He was
on Wiki.
ancient British.
Yeah.
So Alfred was British. That's why he knew the ancient Britain's secrets, such as the Sop to Kerberos at the Gert Dogger Langport, guarding the Glastonbury Zodiac. We're talking about Burbridge Bump and Athelney, where he burnt the cakes when he was making a peace talk with Guthrum the Dane.
Yes.
This was an ancient druidic exercise for peace treaty and knowledge, passing on the knowledge of burning of the cakes.
Wow.
There's lots of symbolism in this, which they didn't teach you about at school.
No, not
did
at all.
they?
No.
They wouldn't. Yes. Well, anyway, we go back to Oxford University. Born and bred there, student there, and it was always maintained that Oxford was medieval. Only recently, this century, around about 2012 or something, have they found evidence, Druidic henges, and they were in under the I think it was the gardens of the college where I was there for 4 years as a car boy and 2 years as head chorister. St John's College, Oxford. St John's, which is old Templar connections that used to own the pub next door to it, which is called the Lamb and Flag. There's a bit of a clue there. And across the road from the Lamb and Flag used to be where the bird and the baby, we called it the Eagle and Child or something, the pub where the Inklings used to meet, including characters such as a man who used to meet every day in Oxford when I was walking around, going through the gate in the Christchurch Meadows, and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Wow. Yeah, cool.
Like,
yeah, wonderful. Thank you.